I just wanted to return an old videotape I found in an attic. But the store owner said, "This tape has been returned before. 7 times. And everyone who brought it in disappeared." Then he showed me a photo, and I was in it. My name is Zach Wheeler. I'm not a detective or journalist. I restore old technology and sometimes buy junk from attics of old houses to sell what works and toss the rest. That's my business, finding value in things others discard. Comfortable, predictable, safe. The house where everything began was put up for auction after the death of a solitary elderly woman named Eleanor Voss. According to county records, she had lived there for 47 years without family visiting. The real estate agent called it a treasure trove for the right buyer, Realtor Code 4, cluttered mess no one wants to clean out. I bought it with contents included, as often happens. Weathered but sturdy, with several boarded-up rooms and an attic that smelled of damp wood and time. The September rain drummed against the roof as I worked through decades of accumulated possessions. Most items were worthless: outdated appliances, furniture with water damage, boxes of yellowed paperbacks. But occasionally, I'd find something worth the effort: a vintage radio that could be restored, antique tools, vinyl records in good condition. It was on my 3rd day, in that dimly lit attic with dust motes floating in the beams of my flashlight, that I found the box of videotapes. Standard VHS cassettes with handwritten labels: 60 Minutes, April 1988, Murder, She Wrote Marathon, Jenny's Dance Recital. Nothing special. But one caught my eye, unlabeled except for a marker-drawn figure 8 with a line through it. The case was worn, the plastic yellowed with age. I tossed it into my maybe pile, more out of curiosity than any real interest. That night in my apartment, I connected my refurbished VCR to the TV. After testing a few tapes that contained exactly what their labels promised, I inserted the mysterious 8th tape. The screen flickered with static before stabilizing into an image. An empty room. White walls, wooden floor, a single chair. The camera didn't move, a static shot that just waited. For almost a minute, nothing happened. Then a door opened out of frame, and a man walked in. He was ordinary in every way: middle-aged, medium build, wearing a simple button-down shirt and slacks. He sat on the chair facing the camera and remained silent. His face betrayed no emotion. Then, after 30 seconds of uncomfortable stillness, he looked directly into the lens and spoke. "Zach Wheeler. You've seen this before. But you chose to forget. Why did you press play again?" I jolted backward, nearly knocking over my coffee table. Chills spread across my skin as I fumbled for the remote, but couldn't find it. How did he know my name? This had to be some weird prank. Maybe the previous owner knew me somehow. But that made no sense. Eleanor Voss died at 89, and I'd never met her. I rewound the tape and watched again. Same room. Same man. Same words, addressed directly to me. The grainy quality and analog tracking issues confirmed this wasn't digital, it couldn't be easily edited or manipulated. This was recorded on actual magnetic tape, years ago. I ejected the cassette and examined the case more carefully. There, tucked beneath the plastic liner inside, was a folded scrap of paper I hadn't noticed before. The handwriting was shaky but legible: "If you bring it back, you'll have a chance. Whatever you do, don't keep it here." Sleep evaded me that night. Every noise in my apartment, the hum of the refrigerator, water moving through pipes, the occasional car passing outside, seemed amplified and sinister. By morning, fatigue had given way to determination. I needed answers. I searched online for video rental stores still in operation, a dying breed in the age of streaming. After several dead ends, I found one called Rewind, about 2 hours away in Millfield, a small town I'd never visited. According to their outdated website, they specialized in preservation and rental of VHS media. What caught my attention was a comment in a forum thread where someone mentioned Rewind had that weird tracking system that went back to the 90s. On a hunch, I checked the tape's case again. There, almost worn away on a faded sticker inside, was a barcode and "Rewind, last rental, June 17, 1998. The coincidence was too perfect to ignore. The drive to Millfield took me through increasingly rural landscapes. Autumn had painted the trees in vibrant oranges and reds, but I barely noticed the scenery. My mind kept replaying the man's words, his knowing expression. The radio refused to hold a signal, cycling through static and fragments of broadcasts that never quite resolved into clarity. Rewind was located in a strip mall at the edge of town, wedged between a laundromat and a vacant storefront. The windows were covered with faded movie posters, and a neon sign buzzed with the promise of 5-day rentals. A bell chimed as I pushed open the door. The interior was a time capsule, tall shelves packed with VHS tapes, categorized by genre. The musty smell of plastic cases and carpet cleaner hung in the air. Behind the counter stood an older man with steel-gray hair and sharp eyes that assessed me immediately. A name tag pinned to his faded polo shirt read, "Doug." "Don't get many new faces," he said, not as a greeting but an observation. "Looking for something specific?" I placed the tape on the counter. "I found this. The case says it came from here." His expression shifted instantly, recognition, then alarm, then something like resignation. He picked up the case with careful fingers, as though it might burn him. "This thing," he muttered. "It keeps coming back." "What do you mean?" He studied me for a moment before answering. "This tape has been returned to me 7 times over 26 years. By 7 different people." His voice lowered. "But here's what's strange, Zach. None of them ever rented it." My stomach tightened. "How do you know my name?" Instead of answering, Doug turned to a corkboard on the wall behind him. It held dozens of Polaroid photographs. He pointed to one in particular, and my blood ran cold. It was me. Standing right where I was now, holding the same tape. The date stamp in the corner read, March 21, 2019, 5 years ago. I was wearing the same jacket I had on today, the one I'd bought just last month. "That's impossible," I whispered. "I've never been here before. And that jacket, I just bought it." Doug nodded as if my disbelief confirmed something. "That's what the others said too. Look closer." Beneath each photo was a handwritten note. Under mine, it read, "Returned, March 21, 2019. Reappeared, 0. What does "reappeared, 0 mean?" "It means you never came back." Doug's eyes held mine. "None of them did. They don't just disappear, Zach. They repeat. Just not here." My head was spinning. "That makes no sense. I'm standing right here." "Are you?" He didn't elaborate, just continued. "The first person who brought it back was a woman named Claire in 1997. She found it in her deceased grandfather's things. The second was a college student who bought it at a yard sale. Third was a trucker who said it was in his motel room. They all had the same story, the tape knew them, spoke to them. And they all had the same look you have now." He pulled out a ledger and flipped to a marked page. "Last person before you was a man named Michael Reeves. Brought it in February last year. Said he found it in a box of his own childhood belongings, things he swore he'd never owned." Doug closed the book. None of these people knew each other. Different ages, backgrounds, cities. The only connection was the tape. And each time it returns, that figure 8 has another line through it. I looked again at the tape on the counter. The crossed-out 8 was clearly visible, but now I noticed something I'd missed before. There were faint marks beneath it, like previous numbers that had been erased and redrawn. "What's on it?" Doug asked. "It's different for everyone." I described what I'd seen, the room, the man, the message. Doug nodded slowly. For Claire, it was her dead sister. For Michael, it was himself as a child. The tape shows you something personal, something impossible. He ran a hand through his hair. I tried watching it once, after the second return. My screen stayed blue. Nothing played. Doug suddenly reached beneath the counter and pulled out a Polaroid camera. I need your picture. For the wall. I'm not leaving the tape, I said quickly. The conviction in my voice surprised me. They all say that too. He sighed. But it'll find its way back to you. It always does. The camera flashed, temporarily blinding me. As my vision cleared, Doug was writing beneath the developing photo. What happens next? I asked. That's up to you. But my advice? Find the others. There's a pattern here that I can't see. Maybe you can. He handed me a slip of paper with an address. Last known location for Michael Reeves. Start there. He paused. And Zach. When things start happening, because they will, remember that time isn't always a straight line. I left the tape on the counter and walked out, the address clutched in my hand. The drive home seemed longer, the radio suddenly working perfectly, too perfectly. Every station played songs about time, watching, or repetition. Time after time, somebody's watching me, Groundhog Day, from the movie soundtrack. When I manually changed stations, the thematic pattern continued. At 89.9 FM, the music cut out and a voice spoke clearly. You're not the first. But you're closer. You have 2 iterations remaining. I swerved, nearly hitting the guardrail. When I tried to return to the station, there was only static. At home, I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door and froze. My backpack, which I'd left in the car, was sitting on the kitchen table. The zipper was open. I approached slowly and looked inside. The tape was there. My hands shook as I dumped the contents onto the table. The tape slid out along with my wallet and phone. The crossed-out 8 seemed darker now, more deliberate. And in the case was a new note: watching it once starts the cycle. Watching twice accelerates it. 3 times completes it. Against all better judgment, I connected the VCR again and inserted the tape. The same room appeared, but now there were 2 people. The original man sat in the chair, while behind him stood a second figure, me. Not a similar-looking person, but exactly me, wearing the same clothes I had on at that moment. You shouldn't have watched it a second time, they said in perfect unison. You've started a new cycle. But your previous iteration remains nearby. I ejected the tape and unplugged the VCR. Sleep was out of the question. I spent the night researching missing persons in Millfield and surrounding counties. There were cases that matched the timeframe of the tape's returns, but nothing definitive. Claire Donovan, age 37, disappeared in 1997. Robert Chen, a college student, went missing in 2002. Others followed, with gaps of years between them. By morning, I'd installed security cameras in my apartment, one in the living room, one facing my front door, another in the bedroom. I needed objective evidence of whatever was happening. The address Doug gave me led to an apartment complex in Westridge, about 30 minutes away. Michael Reeves' unit was now occupied by a young couple who knew nothing about the previous tenant. The building manager remembered him vaguely: quiet guy, paid rent on time, left without notice. For 3 days, nothing unusual happened. I went to work, ate meals, checked the camera footage obsessively. Normal life resumed, and I began to wonder if my experience had been some elaborate hoax. Then on the 4th morning, reviewing the night's footage, I saw it. At 3:14 a.m., I, or someone identical to me, walked from my bedroom to the front door. The camera showed me leaving the apartment. But the hallway camera showed no one exiting. The lobby camera, empty. Street camera, nothing. I watched the footage again. There was no glitch, no gap in the recording. I was simply there one moment and gone the next. That same day, the convenience store across the street called. Their manager asked if I'd forgotten something last night. When I explained I hadn't been there, he looked confused. "You were here at 3:27 a.m., he insisted. Bought a blank VHS tape and asked if we'd seen any others like it. "We have you on camera." He showed me the footage. There I was, purchasing a blank tape that looked identical to the one in my apartment, except newer. The timestamp matched, 13 minutes after I'd apparently left my apartment and vanished from the hallway camera. Over the next week, reports trickled in from places I'd never been. A librarian mentioned helping me research video formats from the late 1990s. A bartender recalled my questions about people who'd gone missing over the past 20 years. A motel clerk remembered renting me a room where I set up some kind of old TV equipment. I wasn't sleeping. The cameras kept capturing me doing things I had no memory of, pacing at night, writing notes I couldn't find in the morning, staring at the blank TV screen for hours. Then this morning, a package arrived. No shipping label, just my name. Inside was another tape case, identical to the first, but the marking had changed. The 8 was now a 9, carved deeply into the plastic with some sharp instrument. Inside was another note. "You're becoming the one who passes it on. When the number reaches 0, you'll enter the frame one last time." I still don't understand what's happening, but patterns are emerging. Each person who returned the tape disappeared after finding it again. Each operated in some kind of loop, being seen in places they never went, doing things they couldn't remember. And each time, the number on the tape changed. I've started documenting everything, leaving notes for myself in places only I would look. Some disappear. Others change overnight, the handwriting subtly different, still mine, but not quite. I've written this account 7 different times, each version slightly altered by morning. The tape is now sitting on my table. I haven't watched it a 3rd time, but the urge grows stronger each day. What happens when the cycle completes? What happens when the number reaches 0? The security cameras have started showing impossible things. Yesterday's footage captured me entering my apartment while I was still inside. Both versions of me moved through the space, never acknowledging each other, never quite touching. One of me slept while the other watched. One ate while the other wrote. Parallel iterations of the same person, like frames of film layered over each other. I called Doug at Rewind yesterday. The number was disconnected. When I drove to Millfield, the store was there, but not as Rewind. It was now a place called Digital Conversion Services that had been in business for 15 years, according to the teenager behind the counter. No one had heard of Doug. The strip mall's owner had no record of a VHS rental store ever operating there. But the Polaroid of me, the one Doug took, was in my wallet this morning. I don't remember putting it there. On the back, in handwriting not my own, "You're close to understanding." The tape doesn't record, it replays. The question that haunts me now is deeper than what the tape contains or who created it. What if some objects aren't meant to be viewed, but are instead viewing us?